Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the true best anime-related show on the internet. My name is John Campea, and this is the John Campea Show, where we're going to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, and a little bit of television, movie news, things like that. And I'm glad that you guys are here along for the ride. A little bit of a programming note for the John Campea YouTube channel. It's my birthday on Monday, and so this weekend, me, Ann, and a couple of our friends, we're going off to Vegas to celebrate my birthday weekend. And that means there's going to be no more shows after the John Campea Show today. No shows Monday, or no shows on Saturday, and no shows on Sunday. The John Campea Show will return on Monday morning, and I'll look forward to having you guys back at that time. Yay, Vegas! Okay, anyway, with all that out of the way, dudes, let's get on to the first topic of the day. Then the first question today comes to us from Lindsey Randy. And Lindsey Randy writes, "Hey, John, I love your show." Thank you so much, Lindsey. "I just heard that Joss Whedon has officially left Batgirl, and the fact that he's been around Marvel lately, and with all the Black Widow movie news, do you think it's possible that he could be doing the Black Widow movie? Keep up the great work and bring on the filthy." All right. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Lindsey. And yeah, of course, yesterday the big news that dropped was that, surprise, surprise, as the merry-go-round continues to spin, yet another director has left a DCEU film. DC's changing directions on it again, whatever. And look, I made a video about it yesterday, but let me repeat just a couple of things for those of you who didn't see the commentary I put up yesterday. Here's the official statement that Joss Whedon gave, and I'll let you know right up front, I don't believe at all. I don't believe this statement whatsoever. But here's the statement that came out from Joss Whedon. He said, "Batgirl is such an exciting project, and Warner Brothers / DC, such collaborative and supportive partners." Such collaborative and supportive partners. Oh, gee, I wonder if Zack Snyder would share that sentiment. Anyway, such collaborative and supportive partners that it took me months to realize I really didn't have a story. I'm grateful to Jeff and Toby and everyone who was so welcoming when I arrived, and so understanding when I, is there a sexier word for failed? So, you know, I mentioned yesterday, this is a PR statement. Joss Whedon is being very gracious by putting this statement out, but I don't believe it for a second. I believe he's just being gracious. I believe this is a situation, yet again, of Warner Brothers working with talent to make sure everybody saves face by putting out certain statements. Now, before I go much more into the Joss Whedon thing, I just want to point out that this is a pattern we've seen with Warner Brothers and their talent. And it's a pattern that I understand. Don't get me wrong. I'm not crapping on Warner Brothers for doing this. I understand why they do it. I do. I really do. So I'm not crapping on them at all for doing this. But this is what they are doing. Do you guys remember back at Comic-Con? A report had just come out from the Hollywood Reporter saying that Affleck was destined to leave. He's leaving Batman. And that they're already trying to figure out his exit from Batman. So that came out like 2 days or the day before the Justice League panel at Comic-Con, when Justice League was going to take to the stage in Hall H all the actors. And I said in a video the night before, you can look this up, July 15th, I made a video that I said, the only choice they have, that Warner Brothers has, and I would do this if I was in charge of Warner Brothers, is come out and actively deny it. Deny that he's going anywhere. So what happened? They played the PR game, because this is what Ben Affleck said, and this all ties back to the Joss Whedon situation. This is what Ben Affleck said at that Comic-Con thing, responding to the questions that, hey, he might not be around for Batman much longer. Ben Affleck at Comic-Con said, "Let me be very clear. I am the luckiest guy in the world. Batman is the coolest effing part of any movie. I'm so thrilled to do it. I know there's been some misconceptions because maybe I wasn't enthusiastic about it, but it's effing amazing. I would be an effing ape on the ground for Matt Reeves." Matt Reeves, who of course is directing the new Batman film, replaced Ben Affleck as the director. "I'm really blown away and excited, and it's a great time in the DC universe. I think you'll see why I'm so excited to be Batman." He was basically pulling a Tom Cruise on Oprah Winfrey's couch, jumping up and down. Like, the only thing he didn't do was run up and down the aisles in Hall H, high-fiving everybody, going, "Yeah, I'm Batman forever, woo!" Okay, so that was the PR spin. And a lot of people bought into it. A lot of people bought into it, saying, see, he's really happy being Batman. He's not going anywhere as Batman. Well, then what happened? A few months later, just before Justice League comes out, we start hearing totally different things. Remember, this is the same Ben Affleck who just a couple of months earlier was, I'm excited to be Batman. I would be an effing ape on the ground for Matt Reeves, blah, 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 blah. Then just a couple of weeks later, on record, before Justice League even came out, then Ben Affleck is saying things like this. The new Batman movie being developed by Matt Reeves is something I'm contemplating. You don't do it forever, so I want to find a gracious and cool way to segue out. When asked by Extra TV if he will continue to be Batman, I don't know about that. Well, we'll see what the future holds. Again, I would be an effing ape on the ground for Matt Reeves. I'm really blown away and excited. This is a great time for the DC Universe. I think you'll see why I'm so excited for Batman. Woo! I don't know about that. We'll see what the future holds. Look, the way this all ties in is just, I just wanted to show that there is a precedent here. This is an ongoing thing of Warner Brothers working with their talent to do the PR spin to make sure everybody saves face. There is no way, I believe, for 1 second, that Joss Whedon, the guy who did Dollhouse, the guy who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the guy who did all these great characters in Serenity, the guy who famously wrote the first draft of the script to Cabin in the Woods in one weekend, that this guy, over a period of months, who they already said when they announced that he was coming on to direct Batgirl, that it was done because he had a great idea for a story already. There's no way I believe that after months and months and months, Joss Whedon couldn't come up for a story for Batgirl. I just don't believe it. Now, I mentioned on the video yesterday, I believe there are 3 possible situations here. I believe possible situation number 1 is that there never was a Batgirl project, that was just a cover for bringing Joss Whedon on to replace Zack Snyder on the Justice League project, that the Batgirl thing was never really going to happen. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what's happened, but it's a possibility. Another possibility is that the controversy surrounding Joss Whedon with the stuff with his ex-wife and, the fact that he had affairs and things like that, maybe that made everybody think, well, maybe him directing a female lead movie right away isn't the best idea. And maybe he backed out of doing that. And then there are a bunch of other options. But moving on to the main part of your question, though, there is, does this or could this open up a door for Joss Whedon to come back to Marvel? It's funny because it was just about a week or 2 ago. We were talking about Joss Whedon and the fact that, he's been popping up and being around more and more Marvel things lately. We talked about Whedon being in that Marvel's 10th anniversary photograph, which is appropriate. He should have been in it, regardless of what the nature of their relationship is right now. He absolutely should be in that. But then I mentioned that, I was at the Black Panther premiere and I'm sitting there and just before the premiere starts, in comes walking Joss Whedon. And then Joss Whedon, like 15 feet from me, gets in these other directors, Jon Favreau, Taika Waititi, James Gunn. There was one more. They all kind of get in a circle around with Joss Whedon, and all of them are talking together. I'm like, I'm not trying to pitch conspiracy theory stuff here, but it's like, I remember we speculated a couple weeks ago. I mean, I don't know, could a door be opening for Whedon to come back? I mean, he was totally burnt out after doing Age of Ultron, but, has he recharged his batteries? Is maybe he thinking that it's a time that maybe he could come back? I'm not saying he's going to. We speculated about it at the time. The Black Widow situation is interesting, and I think there's an argument to be made on both sides. Number 1, Joss Whedon is known for his incredibly strong female protagonists, that he does female heroes great. He's had great success with doing it. And doing Black Widow, a character he's already directed in Avengers and Age of Ultron, doing Black Widow could seem like a really good fit. If Whedon wanted to get out of Dodge in DC, and come back over to Marvel, you know what? Black Widow might be a really good fit. They don't have a director attached to it right now. They're developing a script. Scarlett Johansson's on board. The argument I would make against it, though, besides the fact that he may not be coming back over to Marvel at all, the argument I would make against him possibly doing a Black Widow movie is the fact that the same reason that might be a factor with him not doing Batgirl, with the controversy that surrounded him with the open letter from his ex-wife and all that kind of stuff, that maybe his first big film after that shouldn't be a female-led one. That might just be stoking the flames of the controversy. That might just be inviting some conflict. That maybe that's not the best idea right now. Maybe in a few years after he's done another 1 or 2 movies, it'll be okay. So, I don't know. Look, at this point, everything is speculation. The only thing we know for sure is that, once again, DC has lost a director. And, there's some reports going out, I don't know that I buy them, but some reports going out saying that, oh, it's because DC's decided they wanted to have a female director. Okay, if that's the case, why didn't you decide that 8 months ago when you announced Joss Whedon? Once again, DC's like, no, let's go this way. 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 And that is the infuriating part. Warner Brothers, that is such a steadfast studio, that is such an elite studio, such a high quality studio with everything else. But it just seems like for their DC stuff, man, it just seems like, let's go here. No, let's go here. Let's go here. So even if you believe that story that, oh, they want to go and get a female director, once again, well, why didn't you know that 8 months ago? Yeah, you hired Joss Whedon, apparently, for Batgirl, supposedly. You put out these press releases, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and now, now let's do this. And then in 3 months, what are we going to get? You're going to change your mind again? It gets to be a little bit frustrating as a comic book movie fan and as a fan of the DC properties. It gets to be really, really, really frustrating just seeing them just being completely 100% incapable of getting their house in order. It's a little bit frustrating. So anyway, all right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Jonathan Hogan. And Jonathan Hogan writes, what are your thoughts about the copyright lawsuit being brought against the Shape of Water filmmakers? Do you think the suit will hurt the film's Oscar chances? All right, for those of you who don't know, there is a lawsuit going on right now. By the way, look at this thumbnail that Ray put together. There is a lawsuit going on right now surrounding The Shape of Water that basically alleges that it's the family of this Pulitzer Prize winning writer, who I believe has passed away, who wrote a play in 1969 that The Shape of Water bears striking similarities to. And they are now filing a lawsuit against Shape of Water in the week that final Oscar voting is going on. Okay, well, first of all, let me just say this. I love Shape of Water. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. The movie is brilliant. I love it. If you haven't seen it, you got to make sure you see it. But it is a little bit concerning hearing about, this possible lawsuit, especially while the Oscar voting is going on. And I believe, that Oscar voters are human beings. They can be swayed. And maybe this might affect them. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I usually, in situations like this, I think, look, there's been a billion stories told. No matter how original you are, your story is going to bear some resemblance to somebody else's story that was told sometime 20 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. And this is all revolving around a play that was written in 1969. So I tend to usually side with the new creator, saying, look, it's just because it bears a similarity to something else doesn't mean there was copying, doesn't mean that, they were drawing, or doesn't even mean they were even aware of your thing. However, I will admit there are some striking similarities. Some of the excerpts from the stories going around. According to the family of the late Pulitzer Prize winning author Paul Zindel, the fantasy story, that's Shape of Water, the fantasy story is a ripoff of a 1969 play called Let Me Hear You Whisper. David Zindel says his father's work also depicted a lonely cleaning woman who works at a lab, bonds with an aquatic creature, and breaks him out after learning authorities plan to kill him. It goes on. Shape of Water producer Daniel Krauss is a known admirer of the Playworks work. The plaintiffs claim that Krauss pitched Del Toro the idea of a janitor that kidnaps an amphibian man from a secret government facility after learning that the director was looking to create his own take on the creature from the Black Lagoon. And then it goes on, and it says, Toberoff, that's the attorney for the plaintiffs here, details similarities between the play and the picture over a dozen pages in the complaint, and notes that even minor but memorable elements are shared, including a decapitated cat, severed fingers, and the use of the term vivisection. So, normally I kind of fall on the side of the new creator because, look, no matter what you create, it's going to resemble something else. I got to admit, though, it is a little concerning seeing how many similarities there are. Now, that doesn't mean I believe Del Toro plagiarized anybody, but it is concerning, and it should raise some flags when you see that. And maybe Del Toro had no idea. Maybe this producer dude brought him the idea, and Del Toro just ran with it, not realizing it was taken from another property. I don't know what the situation is. But at the bottom line, the question being, could this lawsuit affect the Oscar voting? It could, because Oscar voters are human beings. And when human beings hear stuff like this, that might influence them. They may look at these facts and go, hey, this does look questionable. This does look maybe there was some plagiarism. And people in the artistic community take plagiarism very seriously. And, voting members of the Academy are artistic people themselves. So it's very possible could affect it. Look, for all we know, the Oscars come out, Shape of Water sweeps every category it was nominated in, or maybe it could get shut out. But even if it gets shut out, we won't know if it had anything to do with this lawsuit. But I am curious to see which way the lawsuit itself goes and how that might affect, Guillermo del Toro and, maybe some of the practices he puts into place, some of the safeguards he puts into place to make sure that any story idea that ever gets brought to him doesn't come from somewhere else. And we'll just have to wait and see how this turns out. Keep your eyes on that, guys. What do you think? Do you read all that stuff and go, oh my gosh, that's a hell of a lot of similarities to Shape of Water? Or do you believe, it's just coincidence, which it very well might be? Let me know your thoughts. All right, final email question of the day. Comes to us from Patreon supporter Jeff Bingham, who writes, hey, John, did you get a chance to read Brendan Fraser's GQ profile? It's really disheartening to read what happened to him. In all the movies I've seen in my life, I think he really is one of the most likable acting presences that's been working in Hollywood. And he's even given some quality performances in high-caliber films. How do you feel about him? And when you'd like to see a Fraser-sance? I'll be straight up with you. I really like Brendan Fraser. And you're right. He is one of these actors that when he's on screen, almost regardless of what kind of character he is, he's just likable. There's something about Brendan Fraser that just comes off as eternally likable. And I've missed seeing him in movies. But anyway, so what the question is referring to is this article in GQ kind of highlighting, hey, what happened to Brendan Fraser? Where did he go? Why did he suddenly disappear? And it's a really intriguing read. You should look it up. Just search Brendan Fraser GQ on Google and you'll find the article right away. It's a little bit of a long article, but it's a fascinating article. And there are some things in there that I knew nothing about. Some of which is like massive physical problems. Like his body, he was doing a lot of stunt work in all these films and he was breaking his body down. He had to go in for like 2 back surgeries, a partial knee replacement. While he's recovering in between back surgeries, he can't really work, and it just really stumped him. On top of all that, he started going through some really deep personal stuff, including like a divorce, which is traumatic for anybody, but also a really disturbing tale of a sexual assault that occurred against him by at the time, the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press, which is the organization that puts on the Golden Globes. Yet another reason why I fucking hate the Hollywood Foreign Press. Anyway, the story in GQ, and this, as the story goes, kind of gets detailed this way. According to the that was the wrong thing. Sorry, I got to jump ahead here. Fraser details the incident, the sexual assault, which took place during a 2003 Hollywood Foreign Press Association luncheon in an interview with GQ. As he and Burke is the guy who was the president of the HFPA at the time. He and Burke shook hands, Fraser says. His left hand reached around, grabbed my ass cheek, and one of his fingers touched me in the taint, and he starts moving it around. The actor felt ill and rushed home, where he told his wife about it. However, Fraser decided against going public with his accusation. The alleged assault, however, had lasting ramifications. Fraser became depressed and blamed himself for what had happened. He withdrew, and the industry seemed to withdraw from him, to the extent that Fraser wondered if he had been blacklisted by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So you have this guy going through all these physical problems, surgeries, has that happen at this thing. And remember, it doesn't matter that he's a movie star. Movie stars are very, very fragile creatures. Their careers can be destroyed like that. And has this happened to him? And it's difficult to understand how, as a person, man or woman, how you emotionally feel about and how you respond. I mean, first of all, I see somebody doing that to my wife, or somebody does that to me, I'm picking up the closest baseball bat, and then I'm spending the next 30 years in prison for murder. That's what's happened. I'm beating somebody to death if they did something like that. But other people, they respond probably more maturely than I would. They try to internalize. They go, and it can do nasty things to you. Now, I've read some people in the whole Me Too movement, with some women telling their stories similar to this one, saying, oh, that's nothing. Well, so what? Somebody touched you, big deal. You have no idea how violated you would feel. how violated you would feel. And I think it really says something when a guy as huge, chiseled, strong, whatever, as Brendan Fraser, it happens to him, and it just broke him. It devastated him. And I'm hoping that some men will hear Brendan Fraser's story and then maybe start to understand where a lot of these women who are telling these stories are coming from. Because I think a lot of people have just been dismissing these stories like, okay, yeah, that shouldn't have happened to them, but is it really that devastating? It's devastating. It is devastating. And it's really sad to read that story. However, Brendan Fraser is starting to make a bit of a comeback. You know, he's appearing in a few more things. He was in that show, The Affair, for a while. And now he's the lead of a new TNT show called Trust, which is basically the same story as All the Money in the World with Christopher Plummer right now and Mark Wahlberg. And Brendan Fraser is playing the Mark Wahlberg character. And Hilary Swank is in it with him, and Donald Sutherland's in it with him. They're filming it right now. I would love to see Brendan Fraser make a big comeback because, yeah, like I said, he's just one of the most likable guys I've ever seen in the movie industry, and I just think the dude's great. Okay, with that out of the way now, guys, there are a few other items in the world of movie news that have come up that I really don't have time to go into in depth, but I want to make sure you guys are caught up to date. And so I put together this little segment that we simply call the Movie News Feed. And here we go with the Movie News Feed. We're starting off with Halloween. The highly anticipated new installment of the Halloween franchise is now officially wrapped production, according to Variety. Halloween is directed by David Gordon Green, based on a script that he wrote with Danny McBride. Jamie Lee Curtis returns as Laurie, as does Nick Castle as Michael the Shape Myers. They are joined by Will Patton and Judy Greer. Halloween creator John Carpenter is on board as an executive producer of the film, as well as the composer of it. The film hits theaters on October 19th. Moving over now to the next item. And we've got, under the category of they'll make a movie about anything, Fox Searchlight has emerged victorious in a bidding war for a biopic centering on the man who created the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Richard Monitez, the son of immigrants and a high school dropout, who, while working at Frito-Lay, had the idea to cover the Cheetos with chili powder after an assembly line broke down, leaving a batch of Cheetos without the orange cheese dust. And a billion-dollar idea was born. Today, Montanez is the executive in charge of multicultural sales and community promotions in North America for Frito-Lay's. All right, remember Goosebumps? That's okay. Pretty much nobody does, actually. Yeah, anyway, but the fact that it only made $150 million worldwide isn't stopping the studio from doing a sequel to Goosebumps, and yesterday, the new cast was announced. Sony Pictures has tapped Madison Islesman, Ben O'Brien, Khalil Harris, and Jeremy Ray Taylor to star in Goosebumps 2. No information is available about the release date or about the story they're going to use at this point. And finally, we're going to talk about the stupid MTV Movie and Television Awards. Well, listen, if you're anything like me, though, you fell in love with Tiffany Haddish when she appeared in her role in Girls Trip. Well, MTV has announced Thursday that the stand-up comedian and New York Times bestselling author of The Last Black Unicorn will MC the summer ceremony, taking the reins from 2017 host Adam Devine. Yes, the MTV Movie Awards are about as useless as cat vomit in a dumpster, but at least with Haddish hosting, it could be entertaining. Although, she did struggle a lot during the Oscar nomination announcements. That was too bad. Anyway, the stupid MTV Movie Awards will air on June 18th. If any of you really care about it, I know I really don't. And that will do it, guys, for this roundup of the Movie News Feed. Okay, with that stuff out of the way now, guys, we're going to jump over to the live questions that you guys have been sending in, and let's jump to it. The first live question today comes to us from Jonathan Aglin, who writes, "Happy birthday, John. Thank you so much. Mine is on the 25th. I hope you enjoy your time off. We'll miss the show, though." Yeah, it's going to be like the first time that I'm not out of the country and that I'm not deathly sick. I think this is going to be like the third weekend in 7 months that I'm not doing John Campea shows on the weekend. It's going to feel weird being in Vegas, and because even when I've gone to Vegas, I've done the show from Vegas, but I'm actually just going to take the weekend off and just relax with Ann and my friends. But thank you so much for the well wishes. I appreciate that. All right. Curtis Lopez writes, Curtis Lopez writes, where'd Curtis go? There he is. I'm a tour guide at Warner Brothers Studios. I want to thank you for the shout out the other day. P.S. I met you, Ann, and Ray when you visited us. I remember you, Curtis. That was a great time. I had such a fabulous time at that Warner Brothers studio, and meeting you there was one of the great things about it. So thanks for mentioning that, Curtis. Curtis also writes, favorite Natalie Portman movie or performance? I'm going to have to go with Black Swan. I mean, she was great in Jackie. Great in that. But her performance in Black Swan was eye-opening. It was really, really eye-opening. I just loved her in that. Deather writes, really like Iron Man 3, Mandarin twist was surprising and funny. The movie was successful and has 80% of Rotten Tomatoes, but online, many hate it. Comic book fans? Well, yeah, comic book fans. But you know what? Here's the thing. I enjoyed Iron Man 3. It's one of the weaker MCU films, but I enjoyed it. And I even enjoyed the twist with the Mandarin. However, and I'll say this too. At first, I was like, oh, everybody's just being a crybaby about the Mandarin thing. Come on, it was a neat little twist. Get over it. But later, some people really did convince me about why they felt so ripped off by the twist of Mandarin. It's they were promised this character that they loved in the comic book movies, and it turned out they didn't get him. It's a little bit of a bait and switch. And while it worked for me, the twist with the Mandarin worked for me, I now understand why so many people felt burned by it. And I think that probably colored how they saw the movie overall. And I get that. And I understand that. So that's probably why you're saying. Now, mostly comic book fans, yeah, probably. But I mean, when you really think about it, like I had to think about it, you start to understand why they felt kind of burned by it. HV39000 writes, happy birthday, John. Have fun in Vegas. Take half of my super chat money and put it on Black 15. You will thank me later. I actually don't gamble when I'm in Vegas. I don't play roulette. I don't play the slot machines. I don't play blackjack. I just play poker. I just play poker. I don't partake in any of the other gambling. But you know what? Just because you wrote that, I'm going to take $5 and put it on Black 15. And we'll see how that goes. ZOMG Ruler writes, John, have you ever seen Howard Stern's Private Parts? I have. Well, it's kind of sad, though, because like one of the big things in that movie is about him and his relationship with his wife, that even though he's this dirty shock jock, he's got this great marriage. And just like a couple of years after the movie came out, his marriage fell apart. And I don't know much about Howard Stern. I don't know, maybe his marriage got back together again after that. I don't think it did, but it's a little bit depressing when I think about it now. Colton writes, excited to hear you may be switching back to an iMac. Are you still considering? Also, would you vote for Bernie Sanders in 2020? I most certainly would. Well, I'm not going to get into politics on this. Besides, I am a Canadian. I mean, I am a American resident. I'm an alien resident in the U.S. I have my green card, but I can't vote because I'm not a citizen. So that's an irrelevant question anyway. I am considering that new iMac for you guys who haven't maybe like follow the tech industry. This new iMac came out last month, and it is one of the most impressive machines I've ever seen, especially for an iMac. And I am seriously considering grabbing one. I'm going to be getting a new computer soon. I bought the computer I use right now, I bought 3 years ago, and I do a lot of production on it. So I'm thinking about getting a new machine. And I'm really torn between getting this brand new, gorgeous, beautiful, salivating iMac or a really, really souped up PC. The cost is going to be about the same, but I'm still kind of struggling with that question right now. But oh my God, that iMac is a thing of beauty, man. John Kari P writes, thoughts on Cillian Murphy being the next James Bond? I don't know. I like Cillian Murphy as an actor. He's a good actor, so sure, why not? I mean, I think there are about 10 other guys I would take in front of him, but sure, why not? By the way, guys, if you have not sent in a super chat yet, no more super chat questions. I think I've got all of them that I can handle at this point. Elijah Brown just sent in a super chat. Thank you so much, Elijah. Factual Opinion writes, that's a great name. Over or under 30%, Quentin Tarantino directs the Star Trek movie. Ooh, 30% is a good number, man. That's a perfect over-under number for this. Because if you said 40, I instantly would have taken the under. If you said 20, I probably would have taken the over. 30%. I'll take the under. It's certainly possible. It is certainly possible. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. But at 30%, I will take the under that he actually directs the movie. For one reason or another, I'll just take the under on it. The Dahar Master writes, "Hey John, do you think 3D is a failed tech? I'd rather watch a movie in IMAX 2D at the same price. Thoughts?" Well, I mean, you guys know what I think of 3D. I think 3D is a useless gimmick. I will avoid it every chance I have. The only time I watch a movie in 3D is when it's at a press screening and they don't give us the option of a 2D screening. Sometimes at press screenings, they'll show the movie in 3D, but they'll have two theaters, one with 3D, one with non-3D, to give you a choice. But sometimes it's only a 3D screening. I hate 3D. It's a stupid gimmick. It doesn't add anything to a movie. I know some of you feel it does, and that's cool if you feel that way. I feel very differently. But I wouldn't call it a failed technology. Look, you get 3D that doesn't need the damn tinted glasses over my eyes and the weird distorted picture and all that kind of stuff. You figure out a way to do 3D projection that doesn't require glasses. That could be something very cool, and I could be back on board. So I'm not willing to call it a failed technology. It's just a technology that isn't there yet to be useful. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Anthony C. writes, "Satisfied with the Battlestar Galactica finale? Any other finales?" Well, I'm not going to talk about every show in history. I like the Battlestar Galactica finale. It wasn't as good as that show deserved. I mean, that's my number one favorite show of all time is Battlestar Galactica. And I was okay with the ending. It really couldn't have ended any other way, but the way they got there and all that kind of stuff, they could have done some things better for sure. But overall, I was satisfied with it, but not one of the best series finales of all time. Like, nah, probably not. The best series finale of all time, by the way, was Star Trek: The Next Generation in a 2-part episode called All Good Things. It was the best series finale I've ever seen for a television show. Andy A. Hernandez writes, "John, I asked P.O. Box, still thinking about it, and about a meet and greet." Yeah, I'm still thinking about doing a P.O. Box. The meet and greet, I'm definitely going to do one at least in San Diego at Comic-Con, but I'll probably do one in LA in the next couple of months. So anybody who's around LA, and then I may be going up to Canada in May. And if I do go up to Canada in the Toronto area, I'll probably have a meet and greet there. So keep your ears open. That stuff is coming. Josh Armosino writes, "Other day, someone asked about an actor who was two iconic characters besides Ford. Maybe Ian McKellen as Gandalf and Magneto. Not as big, but still." No, it was great because somebody asked, who else is like Harrison Ford that has two like franchise iconic characters? And a bunch of people sent me a couple of options, one of which was Ian McKellen as Gandalf and Magneto. That was a perfect one. And some people sent in a couple of other ones that were really good as well, and I'm drawing a blank of them now off the top of my head. But there certainly are a couple of them, and Ian McKellen should be right near the top of that list because he's Gandalf and he's Magneto. Eli the Creative writes, "Hopefully Batgirl and Nightwing is in the Batman movie first, like Black Panther and Spider-Man in Civil War. And I want Catherine Bigelow to direct Batgirl." Oh, well, that's certainly... Catherine Bigelow is a fantastic director. That would certainly be a great choice to do it. I just don't know that Batgirl's ever actually happening. And, I mean, with the revolving door at Warner Brothers, I just don't know if anything's happening over there at this point. We'll have to wait and see. Jessica Tennis writes, "I have not seen any refutes from Warner Brothers or Zack that Zack was fired. Tells me the report was true. Do you find it unsavory using the daughter's suicide for cover? I find it disgusting myself if true." Okay, if true. If true. No, I don't find it disgusting. Because, first of all, it was true. If they made up the story, that would be disgusting. But it was true. It was a real circumstance. And if part of the motivation was to save Zack Snyder embarrassment about being fired, then I'm okay with it. I am. If part of it wasn't just to cover Warner Brothers tracks, but was also to save face for Zack Snyder, so it doesn't look like he was fired. And remember, these are big ifs we're talking about hypotheticals here. But if that's the case, then I'm honestly okay with it. I am okay with it because it was a real situation. They used the situation to save Zack, the father, further embarrassment, which why would he want to deal with that embarrassment while dealing with the whole thing with his daughter at the same time? So again, I would feel differently if they made up the daughter situation. That would be disgusting. But because it was a real situation all around the same time, And if this is the way it went down, and that's a big if, but if, then I'm okay with it. I am on that level. I could see why others wouldn't be, but I'm okay with it because of that. Let's see. L Vision 17 writes, been a fan ever since I saw your The Descent movie review way back. That was a long time ago. What are your opinions on A Quiet Place? I'm excited for Krasinski on his first film. I'm very excited for A Quiet Place. The trailers have intrigued me. The whole context of the movie is fascinating. The fact that he's got Emily Blunt in there with him, who also happens to be his wife. I'm very excited for this movie. I cannot wait to see what they do with it, and I'm stoked for it. Let's see. Justin Welsh writes, John, in Civil War, there was a Dora Milaje who asked Black Widow to move or be moved. Thought it was Okoye, but not. Would have been cool as they could do a nod and doubt. But the girl who did it is one of the Dora Milaje in Black Panther. I can't remember the actress's name, but it is one of the Dora Milaje. They brought her back, and she is one of the Dora Milaje in Black Panther. So, probably at the point they hadn't cast Okoye yet, which is great because how perfect was the casting for Okoye? I mean, she was wonderful in that movie. But if you take a close look, it is one of the Dora Milaje from the from Black Panther. Elijah Brown writes, rumors of DC moving forward with the Joker movie this May. Also, Flashpoint movie could start production soon as well. I lost all faith in the DC universe. At this point, it just kind of feels like they're throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. But just because of that, let's not rob ourselves of the possibility that these movies might be great. So let's see how it plays out, man. I mean, clearly, they're a bit of a mess, but these movies, they've got some good, talented filmmakers attached to them, man. Like Aquaman, they got James Wan in there. You've got Jason Momoa playing Aquaman, who I thought he was a great Aquaman. Look, yes, everything behind the scenes seems to be a bit of a mess, but that doesn't automatically mean these movies won't be good. Let's go check them out and give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they suck, let's say they suck. But let's go in with an open mind. Let's take our expectations, leave them at the door, go in, and just watch the movies with an open mind, see what happens. It's cool to have our opinions before we see the movie, because I certainly have my opinions. But once the movies come, let's leave those expectations, those preconceived notions at the door, go in, just evaluate the movie on the basis of the movie alone. And who knows, maybe they'll be great. Let's just see how it turns out. Poliawalas writes, buy or sell. Star Wars Pod Racer movie by Justin Lin. I'll sell it. But I would watch a short YouTube video, like a 10-minute YouTube video produced and directed by Justin Lin on that. I would watch the hell out of that. But as a full-length motion picture, no, I'll probably sell it. Interesting concept, though. Shane Palmer writes, John, I just want to say you do great work. Oh, thank you so much, Shane. Also want to say I'm finally going to read The Pride. Forgive me if you already addressed this, but will you continue to write and publish? For those who don't know what Shane's talking about, I wrote a book called The Pride. Thank you for reading it. I would love to. It took me 5 years to do The Pride. It took me 5 years. I would love to do another one. I have an idea for another story, but I just don't know how I'm going to have the time to do it, to be honest with you. And I'm not a great writer. I'm a great story writer. Like when it comes to writing opinion pieces and editorials, that's one of my strengths. I'm not a great novelist, but I love my story. I do love the story of The Pride. We'll have to see. Certainly not within the next year, but I'm evaluating it as I go. We'll see what happens. But thank you, man. Thank you for reading the book. Ariel Sandoval writes, opinion on lack of bonus content with digital movies. Man, I miss digital content or bonus content. That used to be one of the things that I like the most, but I'm seeing more and more digital things coming with some extra features. I'm hoping that becomes more of a standard thing because some of the reasons I would buy movies in the first place was just so I could see the bonus material. So yeah, I want to see it make a comeback. Andrew Hutchison writes, with the great performance by Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, I have concerns about how great Thanos will be. In both Russo's films, villains were lukewarm. How compelling Thanos will be as a villain. Well, yeah, but remember, it depends on what does the story need. Not every movie needs a Killmonger to be great. Not every movie needs the antagonist to have a key central role. That's not the formula. If they use Thanos the best way Thanos should be used in the context of the story, you got to serve the movie. The movie doesn't serve the characters. The characters serve the movie. Let's say Thanos isn't as compelling or as great as a villain as Killmonger. That might be perfectly fine. Actually, it might be the best thing depending on how they want their movie structured. So we got to get out of our heads this notion that for any movie to be good, it has to follow this mathematical formula. The villain has to do this. There has to be this many supporting characters. There has to be. We got to get out of that way of thinking and just let each movie be its own living organism. Because a couple of the MCU movies had underwhelming villains, but were fantastic movies. A lot of people consider the first Iron Man movie to be one of the best comic book movies ever made. It's not in my top 5, but a lot of people put the first Iron Man in their top 5 best comic book movies of all time. Come on. Warmonger as a villain? That wasn't a great villain for that movie. But that's okay. That movie didn't need the villain to be that. So let's just see what the movie is and not start putting up preconceived notions and requirements that, well, Infinity War's got to do this. Well, let's just see what the movie does. Let's see what the movie does. So I wouldn't be concerned about anything at all at this point. Let's just go in and see the movie, and then we'll evaluate how they did with it. Geo writes, A24 produces the best quality films today. Opinion? Yeah. They absolutely put out some great content. I'm not ready to say that they do the best. They've also put out some clunkers to me. So no, I'm not willing to say that about A24. They're very good. They're very good. But am I willing to call them the best at this point? No. John Hine writes, have a happy birthday, John. Hope it's a filthy one. Me too, man. Thanks a lot. And going to Vegas will help that, I'm sure. Who Flung Poo writes, say what you will about the MTV Movie Awards. The Andy Serkis / Gollum 2003 bit was funny as hell. Oh, they have done some very, very funny things. They have done some very, very funny things at the MTV Movie Awards. Make no mistake about it. They absolutely have. The awards, though, are as useless as cat vomit in a dumpster. Jonathan Zenigua writes, why do every other studio get slack for Don't know what it is you're asking, Jonathan. Sorry about that. I tried. Nathan C. writes, happy birthday. What are the Vegas must-dos? Never been to Vegas. If you're going for a couple days, plan out a couple of restaurants. Some of the best food in the world is in Vegas. Definitely play a little bit of poker at Caesar's Palace or the Bellagio is another great iconic poker room. See a show or two. Go see Penn and Teller, and just walk the strip. Just walk the strip. It's just and try to take in a nightclub while you're there. Just one. And then finally, Luis Francisco writes, hey John, happy birthday. Not sure why people complain about the Mandarin, but they are cool with Hela not being Loki's daughter. Well, because that's a totally situation, Luis. Like, they were told they were getting Mandarin in Iron Man 3, and then they didn't get Mandarin. It was a bait and switch. That's a totally different situation from Hela. Like, if it would only be the same if they said in the trailers, Hela is coming, and then it turns out Hela wasn't really Hela. She's just a girl from New Jersey who was putting on a Hela mask. That's different. Comic book fans don't scream and yell that you have to do the characters exactly like they are in the comic books. That's not the issue. The issue was a bait and switch with Mandarin. That's why people are upset with that. It's you cannot compare that situation to the Hela character at all. Like not in the least. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Listen, guys, the first part of the show was all emails that you guys sent to me. How do you get an email, a comment, or a question on the John Campea Show? It's simple. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line so I know you mean it for me on the show, and make sure you keep those emails to 90 words or less. Also, guys, listen, if you enjoy watching my program and hanging out on the shows, do me a favor. Head on over to patreon.com/John Campea. Check out and learn all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter actually keeps these shows on the air and gives guys like Jonathan and Ray jobs for doing the great work that they're doing here on the channel, and what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And then maybe you'll decide to be a Patreon supporter, which would be awesome if you do. Totally okay if you don't. I'm just glad you're here being a film fan with me. Make sure you jump down to the comment section, guys. Leave a thought on any or all the topics we discussed here today. Click the thumbs up button on this video. That helps these videos out a whole bunch. And you can follow me on Twitter just at John Campea. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me for this installment of the John Campea Show. I'm about to take a little bit of a break for the next couple of days, but until Monday, bye-bye.